Hi, everybody. We'll wait 5 minutes for everybody to connect, and then we will start our webinar. Thanks for coming. Hello, everybody. I am Juliana, Sales Manager of EXIN, and I'm here today with Marcio Kotz, our partner and data privacy lawyer with more than 20 years of experience, to talk about managing a project while complying with data privacy laws. Marcio, thanks for coming today. And what can you tell us about this subject?
Well, first of all, Juliana, thank you very much for having me here today. It's a pleasure. So let's start. Today, as you said, we are going to talk about how to manage a project while complying with data privacy. Uh, First of all, a little bit about myself. Once again, my name is Marcio Katz. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Get Global International. Get Global International is a data privacy consulting company and also EXIN official training provider. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm an European data privacy lawyer with more than 20 years of experience and more than 100 data privacy management programs implemented in multinationals and big companies all around the world. We've been working with data privacy, mostly with the GDPR, but also some projects in the US, especially California Consumer Privacy Act, and also some other data privacy laws in the US, some data breach laws in the US, also in Brazil with the LGPD, the Brazilian General Data Protection Law, and also working on some projects in India. India is also debating its data privacy bill. And that's it. This is a little bit about myself. And let's move on. Let's start talking about how to manage a program in order to make your organization comply with data privacy law. Every time we talk about data privacy, most of the times, either we are talking about the legal aspects of data privacy or the management aspects of data privacy. Those are the two major topics. And today we are not going to talk so much about the legal aspect of data privacy, more on the management aspect of dealing with the data privacy regulation. If we compare with EXIN's DPO certification, there is the foundation certification that's more on the legal aspect of data privacy. Then there is the practitioner certification and the information security certification. We are going to talk more about how to deal with the legal aspect, more on how to manage a company, a program, in order to make this company comply with the legal obligations. Okay, so it's a little bit more on the particular aspect of a data privacy program and not so much on the legal side of it. If we think about an ideal data privacy management scenario, we first definitely would have to understand what would be our legal obligations, the legal requirements, because most data privacy regulations, they stipulate, they regulate data privacy. The controller has a lot of legal obligations. So the first thing that we need is to understand what are our legal obligations. But by understanding our legal obligation, it doesn't mean that we are going to know actually what we need to do in order to make our organization comply with those legal obligations. So that's why under the EXIN DPO certification, the foundation prepares the professionals first to understand the legal obligations and then how to deal with it. So what we need to do is to, in order to have this ideal a data privacy management scenario is first to understand our legal obligations. That's pretty much the first thing that we need to do. Besides our legal obligations, we need to understand what are the data subjects' rights, because we also have to deal with it. We'll have to respect those individuals' rights, the data subjects' rights or the individual's rights under the California Consumer Privacy Act. So by understanding our legal obligations and the individual's rights, the data subject's rights that we'll have to respect, that's pretty much how we'll have to deal with data privacy. But besides data privacy, as a manager, as a data privacy manager, as a data protection officer, or a chief privacy officer, we need also to worry about the data protection. Those things are different things. Data privacy is pretty much how you process the data, and you need to process the data on a lawful way. So you need to understand your legal obligations and also respect the data subject's rights. But that's pretty much how you how you process the personal data. That's what we call data privacy. But it doesn't make sense to process the data lawfully, but in a not so well structured and not strong data protection environment. It doesn't make sense if your company process the data lawfully, but there is a data breach, and vice versa. It doesn't even make sense if your company has a very strong data protection environment, there is no data breach, but your company processed the data not in compliance with the data privacy law. So this would be the ideal data privacy management scenario, a scenario where we would be able to comply with our legal obligations, to respect the individual's right, and being sure that we have a very strong data protection environment, so we won't have any data privacy incident. So if this is the ideal data privacy management, if this is the ideal scenarios, if that's where we want to put ourselves on, now we need to start talking about what we as a company, as an organization, as controllers, what do we need to do in order to comply with the legal obligations, respect individuals' rights, and have a very strong data protection environment. That's pretty much what we are going to talk about today. So, to achieve this ideal scenario, first let's talk about what are our sources and what are our tools. First of all, we need to definitely have a very good data privacy policy, because the data privacy policy is pretty much the document that's going to tell our organization the procedures they will have to follow, and what are going to be each professional's role within this whole data privacy program. So I would say that our most important tool is the data privacy policy. So the first thing that we need to think about on a managing project to make our company comply with a data privacy law is to think about how we are going to develop a data privacy policy. This data privacy policy is the guideline, is pretty much the rules, the procedures that we as a company will have to follow in order to be sure that our process, our operation will comply with our legal obligations and respect the individual's rights, and will not put our company in any dangerous situation regarding data protection. But what would be in this data privacy policy? First, we need to stipulate the data privacy rules, because people are the ones who are going to work with the process. They are the ones who are going to make the company pretty much operate. So therefore, we need to stipulate the data privacy rules, because even people are the ones who are going to help other people in order to make them keep track on doing the right things, respecting individuals' rights, and working on our legal obligations regarding data privacy. So in this data privacy policy, we need to draft, to define what would be the data privacy rules. For example, we need to decide what's going to be the DPO role. We also need to decide what is going to be our data privacy strategy. Is data privacy something that's going to be strategic for the company, or the company just wants to be sure that they won't have any legal problem? Depending on the core business of the company, that changes. Some companies, they want to go beyond their legal obligation, because they think and they have decided that data privacy may be something strategic for the company, especially if we are talking about, for example, a bank. As a financial institution, the first thing that we want to be sure is that our clients think that we are a safe place. We are a place that we are able to bring to the client the feeling that their money are safe. And we can even do that by showing them that even their personal data is safe. Or we may be a retail chain organization, and we want to have a relationship with our clients, a really fair relationship, a really ethic relationship. And data privacy may be something strategic for us, and we want to show our clients that's something that we respect. We want to go beyond our legal obligations. Or sometimes we just feel that we want to comply with our legal obligations, and data privacy is not that strategic for our organization. But that's something that we need to define with the C-level of our organization. What kind of power our DPO will have? We will, as an organization, have a data privacy committee? What areas are going to be part of this data privacy committee? Are we going to bring people from information security, from some legal professional, or compliance? What would be this data privacy committee role? So that's also something important, and something that we need to define in our data privacy policy. If we are talking about a very big organization, we might need some what we call data privacy stars. They are professionals in different areas of the organization. They are not data privacy professionals, but they have been trained by the data privacy area to have a more deep knowledge of our data privacy obligations. So they've been trained, and they are the ones who are going to help the DPO in order to spread the word around the company, to change the data privacy culture, to even keep a very good data privacy culture in the company. They are the ones who are going to bring some information to the data privacy area, to the DPO, in order to let the DPO aware of new projects or even some procedures that is not being followed by some professional or some area, or even being able to guide their colleagues in that area to make sure that they are doing the right things when it comes to data privacy. So we might choose to have some um, data privacy officers in different areas of the company, because that will help the company in order to comply with our legal obligations. So defining the data privacy roles is something very important when it comes to manage a project to make your company comply with a data privacy regulation. And that's something that we're going to do in our data privacy policy. Besides drafting and stipulating the data privacy roles, we also need to design and implement some process to operationalize the policy, to make sure that by following these procedures, people will make the company comply with those legal obligations, and even respect individuals' rights, and keep a very strong data protection environment. If we don't define what procedures the people need to follow, you might have the people, you might have trained these people, you might have defined what would be their roles, but each individual will do whatever they think would be the best thing to be done, instead of following a previous defined procedure stipulated by the organization. So that's something that we need to do, because by defining the roles, by training the people, and they are knowing what procedures they would have to follow in order to make the company comply with its legal obligation, that would be the ideal data privacy management scenario that we want to see ourselves in. So by designing and implementing these procedures, I mean that we need to define what we as an organization will have to do if we receive a data privacy request. So a data subject request. If a data subject is requesting something, for example, the right of portability, what procedures do we, the employees, need to follow to make sure that the company will respect that individual's right? Or if an individual, a California consumer, requests the right of do not sell my data, what would be the procedures to be followed? And when I mean procedure, I mean the manually procedures, the procedures that people will pretty much do things, and also the procedures to be followed automatically by softwares, for example. We need to know what procedures we need to follow as an organization, or even procedures that we need to follow for a privacy by design project. How will the DPO know that there is a new project going on? By stipulating in the privacy policy procedures that any area will have to follow if there is a new project about to start, or the kickoff of the project needs to involve the data privacy area. That would be a procedure to be followed by the people, by the employees. So those are examples of procedures that we need to design and implement in our data privacy, but not only in the data privacy. We need to remember that the data privacy policies is just a piece of paper, or sometimes it's not even a piece of paper, it's just the front end of a website. But that needs to be part of our culture. So that's why we need to be sure that people are trained in these new procedures. So this needs to be part of our daily routine. And we as data privacy professionals, besides developing the data privacy policy, besides stipulating the data privacy rules, besides training people, besides designing and implementing the procedures, being sure that there are procedures for every and each situation that involves something that we need to do to comply with a legal obligation, or even respect an individual's rights, or even some procedures that we need to follow to keep this strong data protection environment. We need to be sure that that our organization, that people, that the employees, they pretty much know the procedures that they need to follow. So we also need to train people. We need to be sure that they understand what they definitely need to do in order to help the organization comply with their data privacy legal obligations. Besides all these things, we need to monitor and maintain this going on and on and on. Because when we talk about a project, this has a beginning and it has an end. It's going to finish because it's a project. But after it finishes, it starts being a process that goes on and on. So there is no end for this. So that's why we need to keep monitoring and maintaining this machine working, people playing their roles and following the procedures. That's pretty much what we need to do. And how do we do that? How we are able to define the roles and the procedures? Well, this is just a summary, resume on how we see it and how we do it. As I said before, I have managed more than 100 different data privacy projects all around the world. And pretty much those are the major steps that we need to take in order to have our data privacy policy, defining the roles, the procedures, and a way to train the organization in order to make sure that the organization will follow the procedures. First, we need to start with an assessment. We need to start with our data mapping. We need to do more than the data mapping, because we need to understand the data, the personal data life cycle, not only being aware where the data privacy is stored, but pretty much what's the life cycle of the data, why that data is necessary, what source, where did that data came from, and why is that data necessary? What are we doing with that data? Why are we as an organization processing that data? Are we sharing that data with any other company? If we are sharing the data, why we are doing that? Is that really necessary to be done? And then where is that data storage? So we need to do the data mapping, but mostly understand the life cycle of the data. And the way we do that, we not only use a data mapping or a data discovery software, but we do a lot of interviews. We start by having a presentation of the project to the managing staff of the company, to the managers, so they would engage, they would understand what would be the company's challenge, and what would be the difficulties that we will have to face. And once they understand what kind of problems we wanna solve, then we start doing the interviews with the managers in order to understand what kind of data they process, why they process that data, if that's really necessary, if they share data with any other company, who has access with that data, where they storage that data. Because by identifying, by making those questions, we start having access with some information that will be the kind of information we want to have in order to come up with two deliverables, two reports. First, the gap analysis. We are going to point every gap, comparing with our legal obligations and how to respect the data subject's rights, or even how to be sure that the company will have right procedures to have a very strong data protection environment. That's why we use ISO 27001 and ISO 27701 as a guideline. Or we can use, or we can even use NIST privacy framework. Those are different data privacy security standards that we can use to do our gap analysis. By identifying the gaps, we need to come up with the solution for each and every one of the gaps. When we think about what would be the solutions for each one of the gaps, this is how we see it. For each and every one of the gaps, even the solution is a changing in the process. You need to change some process. You used to do something in one way, and now you need to do the same thing differently. We just need to change the process in order to make sure that the company will comply with the law. Or sometimes the solution is more legal-wise. We need to change a contract with a vendor. We need a disclaimer or something like that. Or even the solution is a software, a data privacy software, or an information security software, some software that or solution that will help us to solve that gap. Or sometimes the solution is training, changing people's mindset. So for each and every gap, we are going to point what we need to do, either change a process or train one specific area of the company, or because sometimes the biggest gap is to deal with all the requests from the data subject. Let's say that we identify that our organization receives more than 2,000 data subjects requests every month. We definitely need a data privacy software to help us to manage all of these requests. Or even because we unfortunately work a lot on the legal, the lawful background, the lawful ground of consent, the legal base of consent. How do we manage the consent? We might need a data privacy management software, or sometimes it's something that it's just paperwork. We need just to be sure what is our vendors' obligations, so they as processors will follow our rules. So that's something that we would solve changing the contract. So that would be the first step. The second step, we classify. We classify what's personal data, what's not considered personal data under the data privacy regulation. We even try to identify if we are talking about a sensitive data, or we even start classifying what would be the lawful ground, the legal base that we would use to process every and each database that we have identified during the data mapping. So that's what we call a classification. We need to identify what are our legal bases. Then we move forward to the next step. We need to adapt. What I mean by adapt, we need to start changing the procedures that we identified that we needed to change, because but if we keep following the same process, we wouldn't comply with the law. So we need to adapt the procedures. We need to change the procedures. We need to change the contract. We need to draft new contracts. We need to train people. For example, the area responsible for developing new business, new products, new services, new business, they need to be trained on the 7 principles of privacy by design, for example. So we need to start working on these 4 different possibilities. We need to change process, contracts, even implement data privacy softwares, or even train people. The 4th step is pretty much anything that I wasn't able to solve during step number 2 is something that I'll have to solve right now. Either because I didn't identify any lawful ground, any legal base, I need to either decide if I'm going to process that personal data under legitimate interest, or even if I'm going to ask for the consent, the data subject's consent, or even I'll go for the anonymization, or even decide that I won't process that data anymore. I'm going to delete that personal data just because I haven't been able to identify if I would have any lawful ground, legal base to process the data. So this is something that I'll have to decide during step number 4. Step number 5 is the last part of our project. We need to train the whole organization about the new roles that they will have to play, about the new procedures they will have to follow. We have to train the whole organization. We need to change the company's culture. We can do that by in different ways, by training, online training, quiz, gamification, even some theatrical interventions. I've done that before in the past. I remember that we've decided that we would have 3 actors, and we had about 5 different sketches, different small plays that talking about data privacy, and they did some theatrical interventions in the organizations in order to make the company change its culture regarding data privacy. So, and we did that during the training part of our project. So these 4 things are pretty much the ones that we are going to work on in order to make the company change the way they do business to comply with the data privacy. So procedure, we need to identify and create new procedures. Documents, the same thing. We need to draft new corporate rules because the old ones are not going to help us in order to comply with the data privacy law. And for any data privacy law, if you are in India and there is no data privacy data protection law yet, but in India, they are debating the draft of the data protection bill. So it's just a question of time. Any company in the world that process personal data of people in India will have to comply with these new data protection rule. So therefore, we will have new corporate rules and new disclaimers for that, even in the US or even in Brazil, and of course in Europe, because GDPR is already enforceable. And software, as I said, we sometimes need to implement new tools to help the company to comply with these new data privacy rules. And people, as I said, we need to train them on the new rules, because it doesn't make sense if we have these new procedures, but people weren't able to be trained on how to deal with these new rules, and also on the new procedures. So at the end of the day, our ideal data privacy management scenario would be something that we would be able to comply with our legal obligations. So we need to identify all our legal obligations first of all, and that's something that we do at the beginning of the project. For those who have taken the protection course, it's something that you first need to take the foundation, because first you need to understand your legal obligations to then start working on how to manage the company in order to comply with these legal obligations. Need to understand the individual's rights and have a very strong data protection environment. The tools that we have, we need to develop data privacy policies. In these policies, we need to stipulate the data privacy roles that everyone will play, and also design and implement the process to make sure that the company will comply with those legal obligations. And then we need to monitor and maintain this going on and on and on. Well, that's pretty much what I had for today. So I'm open for questions. If there is any question, I'll be more than glad to answer those questions.
Let me see if we have questions. Oh, for now, we don't have any questions. If anyone wants to, they can write a question in the question part of their screen. Otherwise, we are going to share Marcio's email, and you can ask the questions directly to him later.
Okay, and Juliana, while people are thinking if they may have any question, I want to share with you a quick note. Is that possible?
Yes, of course. Go ahead, Marcio.
Okay, great. Well, just to let you know, guys, as I said before, Get Global International is EXIN training partner, and we have just launched our Data Privacy Foundation and Information Security Management online course. It's on demand, so you can take this course from the comfortable of your house. During this week, you are going to be able to enroll in for this program. You are going to be prepared and get yourself prepared for 2 out of the 3 certifications that you need to get to automatically get the EXIN DPO certification. Remember, you need the foundation certification, the information security certification, and also the practitioner certification. By taking this online course, you're going to be able to take 2 out of the 3 certifications, the foundation certification and the information security certification. So we are going to share with you the link to this website. It costs only $380. We have never done this before, mostly because our training programs are face-to-face programs. It usually costs $1,000. The last one was in Lisbon. The edition before was in New York City, and we were planning to have the next one in Brussels, in Belgium. But due to the current COVID-19 situation that we are going through, we decided to have this online program. You can even, if you want to feel more confident in buying this online course, there are some reviews on our courses. This one is from a German who has taken the foundation course. Her name is Sabrina Palmer. As I said, she's from German. So I would recommend you to watch some of the reviews. You might feel a little bit more confident in buying these data privacy course. Here's the program content. It goes beyond EXIN certification. You are going to have all the content necessary to take the foundation test. Plus, we compare the GDPR with the CCPA because all of our course are for global data privacy DPOs. So we want the DPO to be more global. So that's why we bring CCPA to our program. So we are going to understand the differences between the GDPR and the CCPA. Plus, in the US, they don't have a comprehensive data privacy law. It's more, it's not horizontal, it's more sectorial. And the way they deal with data protection, it's more on data on data breaches, state laws. So you also gonna have something on that. So data breach is something very important if you want to work in any project in the US. Plus, you will also have all the content for information security certification on ISO 27001. And we've decided to also bring some extra content on ISO 27701. This is the very new the information security and privacy standard. So you are also going to have 8-hour training on the new ISO 27701. So I would recommend you to definitely consider our training program for your foundation and ISO certification. Okay.
Here we have a few questions already. One of the questions is asking whether your course, Marcio, already offers the certification.
Mm-hmm. No, it doesn't, because it's up to each student to decide if they are going to take or not a certification. As EXIN is an independent institution, it's up to you to decide if you're going to take the certification. But definitely, you are going to be prepared if you want to take the certification to take at least these 2 certifications.
Another question is, how can I comply with data privacy in the most restrictive countries?
Oh, well, by following in a strict way all the procedures. So you need to have a very strong culture of data privacy. So you need to train a lot. Your organization, you have to have a very strong procedures defined, and keep a close eye on how people are doing things and how they are processing personal data. If you are talking about Europe, you need to have a very close relationship with the DPA, the Data Protection Authority. We know that some countries, they are more strict compared with some others. So you definitely need to study the way the DPA interprets different situations. There is a very good website that keeps track on every fine given by every European DPA, Data Protection Authority. So I don't remember the site's name, the website's name right now. I don't have the address here, but feel free to send me an email and I'll reply to you with the website that keeps track of every data privacy incident and every fine given by every authority. And I think that it's a pretty good idea to keep track on understanding how that specific data privacy authority interprets different situations. So those would be my recommendations.
Another question is, what do you recommend for individuals upskill on privacy?
Wow, that's a very broad question. Because besides having a very good knowledge of your data privacy obligations, because that's a must, you need to develop your management skills, because you need to know what would be the best solution to deal with the legal obligations. But on the top of that, definitely you need to develop some other skills. I've been, during this current COVID-19 situation that we are going through, I've spoke in different webinars, and during most webinars, they ask me what skills should a DPO have. Besides these skills that I spoke about, I think depending on the core business of the organization you are going to work for, you must have some other skills. For example, one of my colleagues is Fujitsu's DPO. He needs to have a very strong knowledge of information technology, mostly because the company's core business is innovation. So as Fujitsu's DPO, he needs to run and manage a lot of data, a lot of privacy by design projects in order to help the organization to keep innovating, but privacy by default, privacy by design. So he can't be the no man, someone that's just going to say yes or no. He needs to come up with some solution. So to do that, he needs to have a more information technology, a deeper information technology knowledge compared with some other DPOs. For example, if you are going to work for one financial institution, a bank, for example, they are very regulated. So you might have some audit skills. You need to be more compliance. How am I going to be able to monitor the whole organization to be sure that people are following the procedures? So maybe you should work on these kind of skills. So I think you should also start thinking what kind of business I want to be specialized on, being a data privacy professional.
And there's a question here. This one I think I can answer is about what are the testing options for the certifications during COVID? So basically, EXIN is offering the online certification. So basically, you can go to our website and buy our exams from there, and you can do your exam at home from your own computer, and you'll be supervised by our proctor. So we have these options available until the end of August. There's going to be a discount exactly to help people during these times of COVID. I will share with you later the links to our website where you can buy your certification, your exams to get your certification. For the data, the PDPP that we call the Privacy and Data Protection Practitioner, Marcio's course offer the certificate of conclusion, so you will be able to use that to comply with the pre-requirement to obtain your certificate on the subject and become a DPO.
Very
And I
good.
think for now,
And
that's all the questions.
okay, very good. Just final note. Remember, guys, it's just 1 week, so availability is limited. So it's just for during this week. So hurry up, and we are going to be more than glad to have you on board.
Perfect. Marcia, thank you so much for being here today with us, for explaining it to us all that we needed to know about how to manage a project while complying with data protection laws. And we will send to you the record of this webinar, the presentation, and feel free to send us an email if you have any further questions.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Be safe.